Hey, so today I'm going to be drawing another rabbit. This one's a white bunny rabbit. It was another one I was asked to do, and this one's going to be in pastels, so it'll be a good contrast to my other video, which is a rabbit in coloured pencils. So it's a small one today, and it's a little one, white rabbit, so I'll be mainly using white pastels, but obviously first thing we're going to do is start with the background. I want the background to be sort of a pastel grey, so a grey, light grey. So we're going to use some pan pastel, and I'm going to mix it with a little bit of grey from a soft pastel, which I've used some sandpaper to create in a little pot. So that allows me to, so I didn't have any grey pan pastel left, so I made my own. That allows me to control the amount of colour that goes onto the background. And yeah, so let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get some of our pan pastel and mix a little bit of grey dust, grey pastel in it, using some powder that using a soft pastel stick that I've used a bit of sandpaper with, just to mix it to the right colour. Now I'm using a soft paintbrush for this, not a pan pastel applicator, purely because I want a smoother look, but I want it to be slightly patchy as well, and I don't want it to be too harsh. So doing it with this brush, I can brush it in as I need it, change the colour, lighten it if I need to, and I can mix it as I go. And this will give me a background, because the paper that I'm using is white. It'll give me a background so that it will show the white rabbit and the fur that comes off the rabbit much more clearly. And I'm using a smaller makeup soft brush to get into the closer to the rabbit and around the bits, around the feet and the ears. Now I'm adding a little bit more white pan pastel just to lighten up these areas. And if you see, I'm brushing the pastel in. Obviously there is a full depth, full time video, a tutorial on my Patreon, which goes into much more depth about what I'm doing and the materials that I'm using. I'm using a makeup applicator here just to put the darker areas in. I'm doing all the base layers first, so that the other layers will then come on top. Okay, and just these bits around the eyes, and then I'm bringing in a little bit of brown or lighter brown just to fill in these areas. Looking at different colours, there's some blues in here as well, and these are the under layers, so don't go too dark, just bringing in the hints of blue, smoothing them over, a bit of pink into the eyes. Now when I do the eye, I always like to put down a base layer of white where the light shines in, and now I'm bringing in some of the blue. So in the eye there's lots of different colours, there's blues. I'll make the eye some browns. I'm just trying to put all the colours into the areas that I can see them, and then using the blending stump to blend it over. Going back in with the colours as well, just getting this brown around the eye, always reblending over, smoothing it in. I'm also using my resting stick so that I don't smudge the picture, and then going back in with the white just to highlight the eye again. Some yellow around the mouth. sepia and some purples around the mouth and nose area. Now I'm using the blending stump here as well as a tool to actually move some of the pastel around. And I'm coming in with this aluminium grey just to start to, what I'm doing here is I'm actually putting in the direction of the fur. I know it's a white rabbit, but you won't be able to tell the fur if there's nothing to contrast the white against. So I'm just bringing in all of this with the aluminium grey. It's a very light grey just to give me the fur direction and to give some definition to the fur. As I said again, this is more of an underlayer, and then don't forget the ear. Then starting to darken up the areas that are dark. Just add in a little bit more grey around the edge here, because I'm bringing in now with the white pencil. I'm trying to bring in some of the fur, the white fur, on top of the underlayers. And now we're nearly coming towards the end of this, but if you can see, it's starting to take shape now. And don't forget, this is a fluffy rabbit, so I've got the fur is coming off and onto the grey around the edges. And I'm just using the blending stump just to blend everything back in, smooth it out. Referring back to the reference picture all the time. And then I'm using a soft pastel stick just to smooth out some of the areas and whiten some of the whitest areas. You can also use the very corner of this just to bring in some lines, some fur lines and some whiskers. And some of the whiskers are a grey or even a black, so I'll carefully be doing that as well, and that's when the rabbit really starts to take shape. And you just start to do the finishing touches and adding in some grass. Now what I did off camera, which I didn't press record for, was I did actually make this area green, so I used a soft pastel just to make it green. So there we have the finished picture. I hope you like it. I hope you enjoyed it. I do have full-length, in-depth tutorials on my Patreon, so take a little look at those, go over and have a look. There's more on there than just the rabbit, there's many other tutorials too. I really appreciate your support, and don't forget to subscribe.